You ever felt like you're living in a rerun of your own life, same people, same pain, same cycles? You wake up and it's like the ghosts of your past are still sitting at the edge of your bed, waiting to pull you back under. You smile, but it's forced. You move, but you're stuck. You breathe, but it's heavy. And some part of you keeps whispering, why am I still here? You know what? No one tells you that sometimes the strongest thing you can do isn't to stay and fight. It's to vanish. Quietly, powerfully, without warning, no dramatic exit, no farewell letter. Just silence, distance, peace. People don't change when they're watched. They change when no one's paying attention. They transform in the shadows, not on stage. That's the real power move. Not proving anything to anyone, not broadcasting your rebirth, but disappearing long enough to build something they can't even recognize when you come back. But here's the part that hurts. Leaving behind the version of you that stayed too long. The version that tolerated too much. That begged for love. That made excuses for pain. That kept showing up for people who never showed up for you. You'll grieve that version. And you should, because you're not coming back for them. You're coming back for you. You don't owe the world an explanation for outgrowing it. You don't have to make peace with the past to walk away from it. The healing starts when the performance ends. And sometimes healing requires disappearing, moving on without applause, leaving the door open, but never walking through it again. So if you're tired, if you're done explaining yourself, if you're ready to breathe again, then listen closely. This isn't about forgetting what happened. This is about refusing to be chained to it any longer. Disappear. Move on. Leave your past in the past where it belongs. You've been taught that leaving is weakness, that if you disappear, if you pull away, if you go quiet, you've somehow lost. That if you're not loud and in the room fighting for your side of the story, you're a coward. But that's not true. Not even close. Disappearing is not running. It's not giving up. It's reclaiming your peace. It's understanding the difference between fighting for something worth saving and staying in something that's been draining the life out of you. There's a point where your silence becomes your strength, where your absence speaks louder than your presence ever could. There are people who will never understand your quiet exit, and that's okay. They don't need to. You didn't leave for them. You didn't vanish to make a point or to stir drama. You disappeared because your soul was tired. You left because staying was costing you your identity, your sanity, your future. And at some point, you stop negotiating with chaos and start protecting your peace. Walking away doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're wise. You've realized that not every battle is yours to fight. That some people thrive in conflict, that some rooms are too small for who you're becoming, and the only way to grow is to remove yourself from the places that shrink you. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing your well-being. You don't need a round table of approval before you decide to step into a new chapter of your life. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. No text, no update, no emotional goodbye. Just space. Just silence. Just gone. Because the truth is, healing doesn't always happen in public. Growth doesn't need an audience. The version of you that everyone knew, that everyone depended on, that kept showing up even when you were breaking. That version doesn't have to explain her disappearance. She just has to decide she's done. There comes a point in life where you realize you can't heal in the same place that broke you. You can't breathe in an environment that's suffocating you. You can't evolve while clinging to people who benefit from your stagnation. And so you go, you unplug, you retreat, not to hide, but to rebuild. They'll say, you changed. They'll say, you're cold now that you don't care, and let them talk. They're reacting to your boundaries because they were never used to you having any, you were the one who always gave, who always showed up, who always answered. So when you choose peace over performance, it threatens the role they assigned you in their lives. But you don't live in that role anymore. You're not obligated to play the same character in a story that's already done. You don't owe anyone your time, your energy, or your presence, especially when it's being drained, not honored. When you disappear, you give yourself space to think clearly. You get to hear your own voice again without all the noise. You remember what you want, who you are, and what you're here to build. That clarity, that silence, that peace, it's not weakness, it's armor, it's fuel. There is no shame in resetting your life, in choosing solitude over chaos, in starting again quietly, privately, on your own terms. Let them wonder where you went. Let them speculate. That curiosity is not your concern. Your only focus now is on becoming, not explaining. You'll find that when you stop trying to fix what keeps breaking you, you'll start creating a life that can hold you. One where your boundaries aren't negotiable. One where your value isn't tied to your usefulness. One where your peace is the standard, not the exception. And maybe the people you left behind never understand. Maybe they never acknowledge their part. That's okay too. Closure is not something you wait to receive. It's something you create. You're not walking away in anger. You're walking away in power. And power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just quietly exits the room and never looks back. Disappearing doesn't mean you vanished from life. It means you finally showed up for your life. You're not running, you're rising, you're not hiding, you're healing, you're not afraid, you're awake, and the old version of you, the one who tolerated too much, accepted too little, gave too freely, she's gone. The person who's emerging, she's intentional, she's clear, she's quiet, but unshakable. So go ahead, disappear, reclaim your peace. Let the world adjust to your absence while you prepare for your return. Because when you come back, you won't be who you were. You'll be stronger, sharper, untouchable, and you won't need to say a word because your life will speak for you. How long are you going to carry something that's already over? How many times are you going to replay that moment, that conversation, that betrayal, as if reliving it will change the outcome? The truth is, the past has expired. It's done, finished, and yet so many people are still paying rent to memories that no longer deserve space in their minds. You are one of them, still furnishing a home inside your head for pain that should have been evicted a long time ago. You keep the past alive every time you open the door to guilt, shame, or regret. You feed it when you replay the worst moments of your life like they're the highlight reel. And it's easy to do that, isn't it? It's easy to let the past become your identity, your excuse, your reason for why you can't move forward. But what's easy is rarely what's right. Holding on to pain may feel familiar, but that doesn't make it safe. What you went through was real. The betrayal, the heartbreak, the failure, it all happened. And no one is asking you to pretend it didn't. But just because it happened doesn't mean it needs to keep happening. The only way it keeps having power over you is if you keep returning to it emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And every time you do, you give it another day's rent. You give it more of your energy, your clarity, your peace. You're not broken because of your past. You're broken because you keep dragging it into your present. There's a big difference. Pain becomes poison when you refuse to release it. It starts to shape your choices, cloud your vision, distort your work. It makes you overthink what's simple, sabotage what's healthy, and push away what's good. Not because you're bad, but because you're conditioned to expect more of the same. And here's the harsh truth. Sometimes you have to forgive people who never said sorry. Sometimes you have to move forward without closure, without explanation, without the validation you were hoping would come. Because waiting for the past to fix itself is how you stay stuck. Closure isn't something you get from others. It's something you give to yourself. There is no growth in obsessing over things that cannot be changed. There is no future for a person who won't release what's already behind them. You can't keep opening old wounds and expect them to heal. At some point, you have to accept that the apology may never come, the explanation may never make sense, and the person you were back then is not who you are now. You don't owe the past your loyalty. You owe your future your attention. You're not here to repeat cycles. You're here to break them. You're not here to be defined by what you survived. You're here to rise from it and build something better. But that can't happen if you're still rehearsing pain like it's your story's climax. Your past is a chapter, not the book. Yes, it hurt. Yes, it was unfair. And yes, you deserve better. But knowing that, truly knowing that, means you don't stay there. It means you stop settling for emotional leftovers and start expecting something new. And that starts with you, with how you speak to yourself, with how you choose to see what happened, with how you decide right now to stop carrying what you were never meant to hold forever. You are not obligated to keep paying for mistakes you've already learned from. Growth means you've taken the lesson. Wisdom means you don't have to take the pain with you. You can keep the wisdom and leave the wounds. That's the difference between healing and harboring. Letting go doesn't mean you're okay with what happened. It means you're finally choosing not to let it own you. You deserve a life that isn't held hostage by yesterday. You deserve relationships that aren't built on fear of repetition. You deserve peace that isn't constantly threatened by memories that don't belong in your present. And maybe you've worn your past like armor. Maybe it protected you. Maybe it helped you survive. But there comes a point where the armor gets too heavy, where the survival mode becomes self-sabotage, where you realize you're not in danger anymore. You're just used to being on edge. You've outgrown the old story. You're not that version of yourself anymore. The one who didn't know better, the one who didn't have boundaries, the one who accepted less. She was doing her best. But you, who you are right now, you know more. You've seen more. You've felt the cost of holding on. And now you get to decide differently. So stop renting space to pain. Stop hosting guilt. Stop entertaining shame. You don't owe the past another minute of your life. Let it go. Not because you're weak, but because you're finally strong enough to walk away. You're done living in rooms that suffocate you. Evict the pain, change the locks, burn the blueprint. The past has expired. You don't live there anymore. People love to romanticize staying. They'll tell you that if you walk away, you're giving up. That if you move on, you're weak. That strength is about holding on, toughing it out, proving your loyalty, even when everything inside you is screaming to let go. But that's a lie. One of the most destructive lies you've ever been told. The truth? Moving on is not weakness. It's one of the greatest acts of strength there is. It takes far more power to release what's familiar than to stay trapped in what's killing your spirit. Anyone can stay. Anyone can sit in pain and call it loyalty. Anyone can keep trying to revive what has already flatlined. But not everyone has the guts to say, this doesn't serve me anymore. Not everyone has the courage to stop fighting for what's already lost. Moving on requires clarity. It demands emotional maturity. It takes the kind of strength that doesn't shout. It just quietly walks away. You see, we live in a world that rewards endurance. Even if it's toxic, stay in that relationship, stay in that job, stay in that circle, keep explaining yourself, keep proving your worth, keep apologizing for growing. But strength isn't about how long you can endure suffering. It's about how quickly you recognize when something is no longer meant for you. It's about having the audacity to walk toward peace, even if it means walking alone. Moving on isn't about pretending it didn't matter. It's not about forgetting or acting like the pain didn't leave a mark. It did, and that mark is a reminder, not of what you lost, but of what you learned. You carry the wisdom, you carry the growth, but you do not have to carry the weight anymore. There's a certain kind of grief that comes with moving on. Grief for the potential. Grief for the expectations that were never met. Grief for the version of you that stayed too long. But you can grieve and still move. You can feel and still let go. Moving on doesn't mean your heart stopped caring. It means your soul started choosing itself. People will try to make you feel guilty for moving on. They'll call you selfish, cold, disloyal. They'll remind you of everything you said, everything you gave, everything you invested. But none of that obligates you to stay in something that's hurting you. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to outgrow situations. You're allowed to wake up one day and decide you deserve better. That's not betrayal, that's evolution. Moving on is how you stop bleeding for things that don't bleed for you. It's how you break cycles that were handed to you without your permission. It's how you silence the lies in your head that say, maybe if I just try harder. No, you've tried. You've cried. You've bent until you almost broke. And now it's time to move. There's a fire in walking away. A fire that says, I will not keep repeating lessons I've already learned. A fire that says, I may not know what's next, but I know this isn't it. That kind of decision shifts your entire life. When you move on, you're no longer begging for closure. You become the closure. You don't chase explanations. You don't need anyone to co-sign your healing. You validate yourself with your actions. And maybe that scares you. Maybe moving on feels like stepping into a void, unfamiliar, uncertain, unknown. But don't confuse unfamiliar with unsafe. The unknown is where you build your future. It's where you meet the version of you that isn't weighed down by the past. It's where you remember what it feels like to breathe without the burden. You weren't created to stay in rooms where you're constantly questioned, drained, or disrespected. You weren't created to carry connections that only take, you weren't created to explain your worth to people who refuse to see it. Moving on is the process of finally believing, and it's quiet. Don't expect the world to cheer you on. Don't expect applause. Your power move won't be loud. It'll be that still moment where you choose peace over validation. It'll be when you stop texting back, when you stop checking in, when you stop begging them to see your side, when you put down the phone, take a breath, and decide, I'm done. Done waiting, done shrinking, done explaining, done watering dead plants. Because moving on isn't just about leaving, it's about rising. It's about walking into a future that isn't defined by what broke you. It's about creating new memories, building new patterns, attracting new energy. And no, it doesn't happen overnight. It's not a switch, it's a process. One hard decision at a time, one boundary at a time, one day of silence at a time. But with each step, you get lighter, stronger, clearer. You realize the real power was never in how much you could take. It was always in how fearlessly you could walk away from what no longer deserved you. So move quietly, boldly, on your own terms, and never confuse motion for progress again. This is the real work. This is the real growth. Moving on, that's your power move. You don't have to announce your transformation. You don't have to prove to anyone that you've changed. Growth doesn't need a press release. Healing doesn't require an audience. Reinvention happens quietly behind closed doors in those late night moments when no one is watching but your own soul. That's where it begins. Not on social media, not through approval, but in the stillness where the old version of you dies and the new one rises without applause. There is a sacred power in silence, in disappearing for a while to do the work, in stepping back, not because you're giving up, but because you're giving yourself space to evolve. People might think you've gone missing, but what they don't realize is that you're in the middle of a rebirth. You're pruning everything that doesn't belong in the next chapter. The noise, the distractions, the opinions, all of it gets muted when you finally decide to prioritize your future over their comfort. Reinvention doesn't begin with a speech. It begins with a decision that says, I'm no longer living by the rules other people gave me. I'm no longer interested in explaining who I'm becoming. To those committed to misunderstanding me, you don't owe them an update. You don't have to make your progress digestible for people who want to keep you in a box. Because here's the truth. If you have to convince them you've changed, they were never really paying attention. And if you keep trying to prove yourself to people who benefit from your smallness, you'll never grow. The people who matter won't need an explanation. They'll feel your energy shift. They'll watch you level up from a distance. They'll see it in the way you move, the way you speak, the way you protect your peace. This is the season where your silence will be misunderstood, and that's okay. Let them misunderstand you. Let them wonder. Let them make up stories. You don't have time to defend yourself when you're building something better. Silence is a strategy. It's how you regain control. It's how you tune into your own voice. Again, after years of drowning in everyone else's noise. You don't need to post about every step. You don't need to document every decision. You don't need to broadcast your boundaries, your grind, or your progress. Some things are more powerful when they're private. Some moves hit harder when they come without warning. Let your results speak. Let your transformation do the talking. You don't have to say a word when your life becomes the loudest message. Reinvention is a lonely road, not because no one cares, but because you finally care enough about yourself to walk away from what's not aligned. And in that solitude, you begin to shed the layers that were never really you. The masks, the habits, the roles you played just to survive. You begin to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. And that person, that's the one you build from. That's the foundation. But don't expect this to be easy. Reinvention is a battlefield. You'll question everything. You'll miss the comfort of the old even while craving the unknown of the new. You'll have to confront your fears, your patterns, your excuses. You'll have to rewrite the story you've been telling yourself for years, the one that says you're not enough, not ready, not worthy. But here's where it gets beautiful. Every time you show up anyway, every time you keep going without clapping hands or validation, you become unstoppable. You start to build resilience in your silence. You start to build power in your pause. You stop depending on the world to tell you who you are, and you start defining it for yourself. Let your silence become the cocoon. Let your reinvention be the metamorphosis. You don't owe anyone access to your process. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Some people only show up to keep you small. Some only support you when you stay beneath them. And when you start changing, when you start becoming someone they can't control, they'll call you distant, cold, arrogant. Let them. You're not cold, you're clear. You're not arrogant, you're awakened. You're not distant, you're protecting the sacred space where you're evolving. And when the time comes, when you've done the work, when the new version of you steps forward, you won't have to explain a thing. They'll see it. In your peace, in your posture, in the way you walk into rooms without shrinking, in the way you no longer seek permission to live fully, loudly, boldly. Your life will speak volumes. It will scream resilience. It will radiate transformation. It will be undeniable proof that silence was never emptiness. It was preparation, that disappearance was never weakness. It was a strategy, that your absence wasn't the end. It was the becoming. So if you're quiet right now, if you've pulled back, if you're disappearing from the noise, good, stay there, work, heal, build, no announcements, no performances, just focused evolution. And when you return, you won't have to say a single word because your life will speak loud enough for everyone to hear. There comes a time in your life when you realize that choosing yourself is not selfish, it's survival. It's the moment you stop begging people to treat you right and start demanding that you treat yourself right. It's when you stop waiting for others to see your value and begin living like you already know your worth. And the hardest part of all, doing that without guilt, without apology, without shrinking to make everyone else comfortable, while you suffocate in silence. You've been conditioned to believe that choosing yourself means letting others down. That if you say no, set boundaries, or walk away, you're being cruel or inconsiderate, especially if you've always been the giver, the fixer, the one who held everyone together while you were falling apart. You've worn that role like armor, convincing yourself that your value is tied to how much you endure for others. But that's not love. That's emotional slavery. Choosing yourself isn't a betrayal. It's a declaration. It says, I am no longer available to betray my own needs just to keep others comfortable. It's not about cutting everyone off or living with a hardened heart. It's about knowing that your energy is sacred, your time is valuable, and your presence is a privilege, not a punishment. If someone can't respect that, they don't belong in your inner circle. You are not here to live a life of constant sacrifice. You are not here to pour endlessly into others while you run on empty. You're not a machine. You have limits. And protecting those limits is not something you should feel guilty about. You should feel empowered because the day you begin choosing yourself is the day your real life begins. But people won't like it. The ones who benefited from your lack of boundaries will call you selfish. They'll accuse you of changing, of being cold, uncaring. They'll remind you of all the times you were there for them, every favor, every sacrifice. But that's manipulation dressed up as memory. They're not honoring you. They're trying to guilt you into staying small. Here's what you have to understand. You don't owe anyone your burnout. You don't owe anyone your breakdown. If loving them means abandoning yourself, it's not love, it's control. And walking away from that is not weakness, it's strength. The kind of strength that says, I refuse to keep playing a role in someone else's comfort fantasy while I lose myself in the process. Choosing yourself might mean leaving some people behind. It might mean losing friends, relationships, jobs, even family connections. That hurts. But what hurts more is spending your whole life playing small, so someone else can feel big. What hurts more is living a life where your needs are always second, your voice is always silenced, and your dreams are always delayed. You are not here to be someone else's emotional punching bag. You're not here to make everyone else feel good at your expense. Your existence is not about managing the comfort of people who never learned to respect your boundaries. You deserve reciprocity. You deserve peace. You deserve to be the main character in your own life, not a supporting role in someone else's script. So stop apologizing for prioritizing your healing. Stop apologizing for saying no, for needing time, for walking away from environments that made you question your worth, for choosing solitude over chaos, for doing what's best for you, even if no one claps for you. Because the truth is, most people won't. They won't understand why you changed, why you pulled back, why you stopped showing up the way you used to. That's not your job to explain. You're not here to convince people that you deserve to be treated well. You're not here to debate your decision to honor your needs. Your peace is not up for discussion, and your worth isn't on trial. Choosing yourself doesn't mean you don't care about others. It means you finally care about yourself too. It means you're done abandoning yourself in relationships. You're done carrying emotional burdens that were never yours to begin with. You're done mistaking exhaustion for loyalty. You can love people deeply and still choose yourself. You can be kind and still say no. You can be compassionate and still walk away. These things are not contradictions. They are signs of growth, of maturity, of emotional intelligence. And anyone who tries to convince you otherwise is revealing their own inability to grow. There's nothing wrong with you for putting yourself first. In fact, that's the only way you ever truly have anything to give. Because the most powerful, loving version of you is the one who is whole, who is rested, who is in alignment with her values and vision. That version doesn't come from self-sacrifice. She comes from self-respect. So, stop apologizing. Stop shrinking. Stop over-explaining. Your decision to choose yourself is the beginning of everything you've ever wanted. The dreams you put on hold, it's time to chase them. The peace you've been craving, it's time to protect it. The woman you know you're capable of becoming, she's waiting on the other side of your courage. You don't need permission. You don't need consensus. You just need to decide that your life is yours again. Choose yourself boldly, relentlessly, unapologetically, and never look back. You don't owe the world your exhaustion. You don't owe your past another moment of your power. And you sure as hell don't owe anyone an apology for deciding to take your life back. Disappear if you need to. Go silent. Move on. Reinvent. Choose yourself. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Because your peace is not optional. Because your future cannot afford to be built on pain you were never meant to carry. Let them talk. Let them question. Let them wonder where you went. You don't need to respond. Your life will answer louder than your words ever could. You're not lost. You're becoming. You're not broken. You're rebuilding. You're not selfish. You're finally aware. So walk away from anything that makes you forget who you are. Let the old version of you die in peace. Step into your silence. Protect your energy. And when you're ready, come back stronger, clearer, and untouchable. Not everyone will understand. Not everyone is supposed to. But the real ones won't question your distance. They'll honor your growth. This is your moment. No more begging. No more explaining. No more apologizing. Just disappear. Move on and leave your past in the past for good.